Welcome, Bryan. You're welcome. It is 8 to 10 minutes. Yes, it is.
Good.
Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. Today I'm going to be speaking from number 10, The Magic of Thinking Big. My intros are always terrible, so I'm just going to step away from trying to give a really horrible intro and look at my piece of paperwork. It's just absolutely terrible, excuse me. So, this book, The Magic of Thinking Big. So, has anybody read this book before? The Magic of Thinking Big. Excuse this little portion right here by David Schwartz. So this book is very inspirational. So I found a lot of great tips inside this book, and that's basically, I'm going to give kind of a review of the book a little bit on about 4 or 5 topics that I thought were very, very interesting to me and just kind of spoke to me personally. So those are the things I'm going to be talking about. But one of the topics that David talks about in his book, or a quote that he has, is the mind is what the mind is fed. And for me personally, I took this as a positive and a negative, and I thought about my own personal processes and what I think about on a daily basis. And for the most part, I realized that a lot of my thoughts were more negative than they were positive. And they would be small, petty things that were like, somebody cut me off in traffic, you know, the laundry didn't work, there's a broken laundry machine again, my daughter didn't put something up, you know, just a bunch of small little petty things that I would think about recurring over and over in my mind, and it was just a negative way to kind of think. And so, you know, turning it around to more of a positive thing, it's like, okay, well, what am I feeding myself? And so I started thinking, okay, well, what are the positive things I can feed? Which would be, you know, the sun shining, I have a job, I have a roof over my head, I can feed myself, you know, things like that. And instantly that makes me feel a whole lot better. So it's about what am I feeding myself mentally and my internal dialogue from negative to positive. And so I challenge people to kind of think about what they think about throughout the day. And is it more on the negative side, or is it more on the positive side? And if it's on the negative, try to get rid of it and shun it and fill yourself more of a positive kind of outlook, and that'll help you throughout the day. The next big quote that I took away that was really good was action for fear. So you take action to overcome fear. And one of the things, again, I'm just going to use me as a personal example. I was having a difficult time speaking in meetings and giving my opinion at a company that I worked for. And it got so bad is that the fear of speaking out loud, for fear of kind of like reprisal, I think would be the best word, is that I wouldn't say anything. And what happened is, more and more, I was going into a shell. So I wasn't speaking at all. You know, it was very rarely that I was saying anything. And so my confidence was getting affected by this. And this is all because fear and me not taking any action. So I was moved into this smaller bubble, and it's smaller and smaller, and I just realized, gosh, I'm not getting anywhere. And I actually went to a book, and this is Napoleon Hill's Golden Rules, which is a great book, and he has another one, Think and Grow Rich, which many people have heard of. But in here, he talks about, there's a section on building self-confidence. He said, read this for 2 weeks, and you're going to feel instantly better. I want you to read this for in the morning and in the night, right when you wake up and right before you go to sleep. So I read it for however many tally marks. So I went above and beyond the 2-week period, slightly. And I read it twice a day, and I think it's for almost a year. And it was about 3 pages. And it did make me feel a little bit better, but it still wasn't solving the problem that I was having. And the problem was that I wasn't getting physically active, although mentally I was reading the material and I was internalizing it, But what I wasn't doing was speaking to a group like I'm doing right now, which led to me going to Toastmasters. And here I am speaking, kind of giving my opinion, right? Taking action to knock out that fear and eliminate the fear. So I challenge each of you to do the same thing. There's probably something that we all fear out there, if it's big or it's small, but to take steps toward that so that it doesn't become too big. I let it become way too big. It was just something that when I thought about it, it just became more and more. I was just crouched down and I didn't want to say anything. And so I really had to get out of that by taking the physical action along with the mental, because it did help a little bit. So the next big idea that kind of came out or struck me personally, because there's lots of great ideas throughout the book, is ideas are highly perishable. If we are not on guard, negative thinking people will destroy most of them. Ideas require special handling from the time that they are born until they are transformed. And so with ideas, this is another thing that for me, I'm just going to use myself personally to kind of relay my story, is that when I have an idea, I feel like I want to express that and cultivate it. But a lot of times I have that fear, and maybe it's fear of what people will think of me, how people will react to me, what will they think about my ideas. And a lot of times I let those ideas die. And I think that happens with a lot of people because we're all unique and we're all individuals of the world. There's nobody else like us. So the ideas that we're coming up with, for the most part, are very unique. And those unique ideas need to be cultivated and fed. I do believe it's kind of the spark plug that ignites the world. So as we're moving and thinking about that, it's like, what can I do to cultivate this idea? And not all ideas that we have are great. That's not what I'm saying, because some of them are, I have lots of ideas. A lot of them aren't great. But I got to give them leverage, cultivate them, and push them and let them be out there and be heard, because that could be the one that's the great one that I didn't take out, to the world because I didn't want to, because I was afraid of what people would think, or how they would react to me. And so I challenge you as well. This is an inspirational type speech that I'm giving here, but I challenge you to be an individual and take it to the next level and let your ideas flourish. Give an opportunity to those ideas. The next big idea is or a quote that came out of there that struck with me. And I'm kind of reading quotes basically, and then I'm giving you my own personal opinion of them, or my own personal light. Meet problems and obstacles as they arise. The test of a successful person is not the ability to eliminate all problems before he or she takes action, but rather the ability to find solutions to difficulties when they encounter them. So when I think about this, I'm a problem solver. All of a sudden I've got a problem and I want to solve it. What I'm doing is I'm jumping ahead, way ahead, and I'm trying to solve a problem, and I'm in the mind frame of, let me figure out how to solve this problem. And then what happens is I have another problem to solve and another problem to solve, and I'm solving future problems that may or may not exist. I think Mark Twain said it best when he said, there was a ton of worries that I had in my life and hardly any of them ever came true. Something to that effect. And I believe that a lot of us do that, is that we're thinking way ahead of time and we're not being patient enough to allow the problem to come to us and then solve the problem as it comes to us with our skills, our creativity, and our ingenuity. So it takes us from, it takes us from moving, now I completely lost my space. Yeah, so, anyway, so, and the creativity and ingenuity, and completely lost what I was going to say there. So, I'm just going to go ahead and move to the close. Thanks. So in closing, I'd like to kind of repeat the 4 things that I went over. The mind is what is fed, so feed it with something positive. As you can see, this is a great speech. Action cures fear. I encourage you to take some sort of action towards something you fear. Ideas are highly perishable. Cultivate your ideas and don't let them die before you've had an opportunity to soar. Meet your problems and obstacles as they arise. Don't try to solve problems beforehand. Wait until they are presented and then attack with creativity. Ms. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Bryan. Mr. Timer, can we please put a minute aside for some notes to Bryan? And you guys also have these little notes in front of you. If you want to give Bryan some of your comments, he will appreciate that. Thank you.